Well, thanks for staying with us on the program this morning. We're joined virtually by our guest reviewer, Dr. Aliu Ilyas, who joins us from the nation's capital this morning to discuss topical issues in the news. Doctor, it's a pleasure to have you join us. Let's get straight into this now. Tell me your thoughts when the news broke of the ADC as the platform for the coalition party.
Well, it is expected. You recall that they went with the two plan. One plan is to have a political party, which I think they came up with ADA. As you know, that they said they have hundreds of political parties that is not ready. So they have to maximize the other opportunity of joining a particular political party, which happens to be ADC. I think having adopted ADC, we see what we're going on. Now they have temporary chairman and secretary, person of David Mark and Aregbe Shola. So I think it's a good way to go because as a Nigerian, we all canvas for a robust opposition party who can challenge the party that is in power to do the best that were expected. However, we do not want to just be a political party who wants to only grab power. We want to be a political party that comes with an alternative.
Well, talking about the names on the scorecards, I know there is supposed to be a meeting today to formally address the interim exco in terms of how they vie for 2027. But from the prominent names in the former Senate President David Mark, former VP at Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Aregbe Shola, if they were to pick a flag bearer and a running mate, who do you foresee being the ADC's choice?
Right, I think it's quite contentional because you will agree with me that choosing a party a party flag bearer has to do with a lot of consultation. But however, they have to play their card very well. And how do I mean? First and foremost, they have to look at geopolitical zone that will actually give the ruling party a serious challenge. They also have to look at a vibrant political stalwart who can actually flag their flag accordingly. You recall that APC became much more vibrant because they choose to go with President President Muhammadu Buhari then, because ordinarily Muhammadu Buhari do have 12 million votes, even through his political party then. Is it APC or what's the name? I forgot the name. ACN. Is it ACN? CPC. So you always have Ghana about 12 million votes. So he has that political value as it is, So and that's what they embrace. So the Labour Party, the ADC now have to also look at those people that have that political value, and among them is Peter Obi. He's also Atiku Abubakar, but Atiku Abubakar, because of the geopolitical zone, you have to look at it very well because any party who fail to zone to southwest now, we have their own trouble as well, and you could see that. Peter Obi is actually playing to the gallery already. He's positioned himself for that opportunity.
Now, particularly when it comes to the replies that are coming in from the APC spokesman, Bala Ibrahim, has discarded this. He says that the coalition is dead on arrival. Do you see any reasons as to why the coalition does not have a chance against the APC in 2027?
Well, for me, I think you recall that how did we have APC come about? It's just like this. In fact, they are not as strong as this when they came at the start. So you don't just undermine such political party. Undermine that your own peril. It's a dangerous thing for you to undermine them. You recall that there's this popular saying that next election will not be between political party and APC. It will be between APC and Nigerians. That's something to check about. Then another thing is that they may actually not clinch the position of a president, but what about other positions? What about other positions? Look at Labour Party. Labour Party did not become president, but they have people in the House of Representatives, people in Senate House. They also have governor.
So these are the things those numbers of the other positions clinched by the Labour Party alongside the PDP have also diminished. The APC has been able to sway over none less than 4 PDP governors. When you talk about those even in the National Assembly, the APC has a majority of 6 senators. What do you see when elections like this hold and then there are defections in the interim It can't really be a strong point, can it?
But you recall that APC did not defect at their own period. It's Labour Party that actually defect. So for me, they should not joke with them. And I like the way they're actually going. If they can, the ADC can actually understand themselves, give them a good role, because finance will not be their problem. Because if you see people that are there, they also understand the gimmicks of politics. So if they understand the gimmicks and they can actually position people, I can tell you if they go the way they are going, they will win some states. And even the presidency should be careful. Because if they can have someone like Peter Obi as for president, and they have a strong person, not the former vice now, another strong person from the north is going to give them a run for their money. So, and that's what we actually wanted, because that will bring development in a country called Nigeria.
Now, apart from the former vice president, the ex-Jigawa state governor, His Excellency Sule Lamido, is also part of those under the PDP umbrella. This brings us to our second point now, where the VP is also canvassing for an expanded coalition. He's looking to woo in more PDP leaders beyond the north, across the country into the coalition. And we hear that the ADC is supposed to have an interim exco meeting later today. Some of the names on the front burner include former Cross River State Governor Senator Leali Moke. The former PDP National Chairman Uche Secondos is also part of those being mentioned. Do you see more persons under the current PDP structure following the calls of ex-VP Atiku?
The answer is yes, because PDP is becoming a divided home the more, even though they seem to be getting themselves now. But yeah, and if you look at the coalition, we have more PDP people there. El-Rufai was formerly PDP, Rotimi Amaechi was formerly PDP, Atiku was formerly PDP, David Mark was PDP. So it's PDP more there. So they have a possibility of weighing those people. And those people that are disgruntled at the PDP can actually find solace in ADC. And that's why we need to have a robust political party. PDP would have been the best opposition because across every ward they have their structure, but they seem to be losing it in terms of their administration and their leadership.
Now, Doctor, when you say PDP is losing it may look as though there was a change of the faith of PDP over the last 48 hours. They have decided to go with the decision of Senator Samuel Anyanwu as their national secretary, much to the request of INEC and the approval by the Supreme Court. Now, listening to elder statesman Chief Bode George, he says that those who are looking at PDP as probably dying need to have a rethink because the party is re-strategizing ahead of 2027. Do you see anything changing on the consensus reached on its national secretary with the hopes of restoring all the aggrieved members?
Well, that could be cosmetic because the root cause has not been solved. Because the wiki factor is still there for them. The governor of current governor for your state, Seyi Makinde factor is still there, and the influence even of Damagun is still there. So let's wait to see how their next meeting will go and who will emerge their chairman and their secretary. By and large, until they look at those bad eggs and actually maybe sanction them and take them out of their party, that's when they can have the rest of my. I tell you, they will continue to have internal wranglings.
Now, moving on to another issue in the news, I know you had earlier highlighted the number of applications on the desk of the electoral umpire INEC, over 110 of them seeking registrations at new political parties to join the existing 18 registered parties in the INEC register. However, the challenge is beyond that. It's also talk about electoral reforms. The INEC chairman, speaking quite recently, also hinted that there would be a new set of regulations for the review of declared results. This is coming at a time when a lot of persons are picking holes in the Electoral Act of 2022. Let's get your thoughts on this.
Right, I think if there's anything we should score INEC for, they have that penchant to always look for how the job will be easy for them. I think it's a good one, and that's the beauty of development. At every election, it's a lesson for another level of knowledge. So now they have seen the gap, and they are trying to create another guidance to actually make it much more smooth, which I agree with them. For me, what I always canvass is for, we should have part of the political party at the back end to also watch the back end. For me, it won't be only them because we don't know if manipulation actually come at the back end. However, it's good to provide such they and forward it to National Assembly if need be on time so that it will pass the resolution as supposed to be. Perhaps they should also open it to Nigerians to also suggest for them on how to actually move those processes. I also sometimes monitor the election, and when we do the field work finish, they take it to the next level. So at those next level, what are the structure they put in place to make sure that it's quite transparent very well. So we must continue to build on that, and that's the beauty that in democracy there's always room to improve on your processes and how to handle it. I think it's a welcome development if that will bring another sense of confidence to Nigerians.
Now, talking about the role of the National Assembly, before this, there had been constitution amendment bills on the floor of the House of Representatives, sponsored by the Speaker of the House, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. And one of those bills was proposing the removal of the power to regulate political parties from INEC, both in their registration. It was also suggesting that they need to have a political party tribunal where issues and disputes between political parties are debated on, saying that INEC needs to have its focus on the conduct of the elections away from all these other functions. What do you say in that regards?
Right. So for me, I think I agree with the speaker, Dr. Tajuddin Abbas, that there's definitely need to unbundle INEC. The work seems to be enormous to them, and they're actually affecting each other. So if you have a separate body registering a political party, it will help INEC to fix their core job so that it will reduce distraction as it were from them. Because distraction, registration and working out things, it's a serious problem. Then concerning the process itself, I think the speaker, as a player in that field, actually saw it more, and it will be very good that we actually unbundle INEC to have a seamless processes.
Now, people talk about the role of by-elections serving as a litmus test to also see how these supplementary regulations to be provided for INEC clarify Section 65 of the Electoral Act of 2022. Do you see the by-elections serving as the genuine litmus test?
Well, ideally, every by-election should be a litmus test for the main election. So, for instance, I think we have done with is the Edo election. We are also expecting Anambra and Osun. Those will give us a pointer if INEC is ready for the 2027 elections, and that would have also give them opportunity to try their new guidelines. That's an opportunity for them, and that's why it's truly a litmus test. It will give them room to actually test all the new guidelines and approach it as they expected. So they would have looked at it if it's actually feasible, if it's what Nigerians should look into, if it's what, and Nigerians will also have opportunity to actually monitor and see the processes if it actually meets the expectation of Nigerians. So I think it's a litmus test in no small way, and they must also prove themselves from that level. Because if they fail to organize Anambra election very well, maybe Osun election very well, it will be a pointer showing that they are not actually ready to do the needful.
Now, Doctor, between now and 2027, there are 5 major elections, and rightly, like you've said, Anambra or Osun are one of them. To start with, Anambra is the closest, begins in the month of August, particularly on the 21st. Then to be followed by the FCT area council elections in November, starting on the 8th of November. For the interest that stands, especially with some of the other issues, particularly in Anambra, part of the southeastern states faced with some level of insecurity, there's also conversations on how to build voters' trust and confidence. Now, deployment of electoral materials have also been a bane and a headache that has affected INEC over the years. What are some of your recommendations to be able to surmount these challenges?
The beauty of the upcoming election is that Anambra is not APC state, Osun is not APC state, and that's a serious test for APC-led government and INEC. So it simply means that if they allow free and fair election, we will know that this is actually a free and fair election. And if it's not free and fair, Nigeria would have known that Anambra, traditionally Abga, we'll see what will happen there. We'll also see what happened in Osun that has PDP at their governorship. So that's why INEC was trying to come clean and make the process transparent enough. And that's why I made mention of having people at the back end. You may collate, and at the back end, things get changed. Who know who is actually changing? And that's why there must be transparency at every process of this election. And for FCT, FCT, the way it is now, we have one of the we have the senator actually from Labour Party. So we want to see how those things actually play out. The more INEC shows that they actually are a clean umpire, that's when Nigerians will agree with them that going forward we have confidence. Perhaps the tenure of the current INEC chairman, Dr. Professor Mahmoud Yakub, may actually expire this year, if I'm actually correct. And it's also another opportunity. So we're expecting who they are going to bring. Are they going to be people that are not politically, inclined, that does not have any relationship with any political office holder? So these are the things that we begin to look at, and we see that if INEC is actually and truly ready to be a clean and credible umpire.
Now, Doctor, you agree with me that wherever there is law, there's a subject of technicality and in interpretation in terms of how the law is seen to be in effect. Now, particularly for the review of declarations of results, there's precedence that was set in 2023, particularly in Adamawa State. Now, this underscores the role of resident electoral commissioners who are also present at that stakeholder engagement with the INEC chairman. This issue of clarity and interpretations of law, what is one way that we can make it as simple as it is so that the layman on the streets understands that this is what Section 65 is saying, to avoid the ambiguity of where technicalities come in and beclouds the interpretation of these laws?
Right. Beyond the trying of Kudu, the is it Adamawa State person who actually go the wrong route, we have not seen the clarity of process in that area, and that's why we said for INEC to be a good umpire, they must come out clear and say these are the processes, the responsibility of resident electoral commissioner, these are the responsibility of A, B, and Z. So by so doing, Nigerians will now keep tab and say, okay, you are going beyond your, your right and jurisdiction. But if they fail to come clean and bring those things clear, and that's why this guideline they are bringing, is amongst to a lot of guidelines. You see 47 I saw. So if they have up to that, they should come clean and share it with people so that people can actually understand that, okay, these are the guideline for INEC declaration of result. This is the person that should declare. This person that will collate. This person that must witness the collation. This person that will be at the back end. If they give us all these processes, we can now actually, in our own way, follow it stricter sensu and make sure that things actually fall in place. And we will now have confidence in the electoral process.
And lastly, before we move on to another issue in the news, is the conversation around voter education. We normally have persons saddled with the official title under the INEC umbrella of educating Nigerian electorates. But in reality, there is a big disconnect when it comes to actual voter education. Beyond those who know where to thumbprint on the ballots and get verified by the beavers, there is a lot of unawareness or lack of education when it comes to the Electoral Act of 2022. Where does the responsibility fall the most?
Right. So for me, if you ask me, I think the first responsibility I would say INEC should take care of is logistics responsibilities, because I recall the major job, about 80% of their job is logistics, and I recall they have the largest department should be logistics as well. When you talk about education, I think everybody in INEC should be an educator, and beyond that, you recall that we have one of them that actually played that role. I think that maybe his tenure expired. We've not seen any other person coming out in that full force educating Nigeria continuously. Even on the issue of 100 political party intend to register, we've not seen anybody coming out and said these are the problems, these are the challenges, this is why they cannot register, this is the problem they have. And it also fall on you, the media. We really call on INEC to tell us why. those political parties cannot register? What are the conditionalities? So that Nigeria will be educated, across all the areas in the INEC. So that we have that. Because for me, it's like it's a bit shrinking secrecy. Why those people cannot register their political party? Nigeria is set for multi party system. So why are you now giving them caution that cannot allow them to register?
Now let's move on to the issue in the news, and it's on fuel subsidy removal. Now this morning, earlier captured on a couple of newspapers are positions, one by the ex-EFCC boss, Abdurrashid Bawa, and the other by Garba Shehu, on the approach to fuel subsidy removal. We'll start with the ex-EFCC chairman, Abdurrashid Bawa, who says that indeed fuel subsidy was a scam, but it gets controversial when he goes on to say that it is a scam that benefited even law enforcement. Now, these are very strong claims considering the number of cases that involved probe into monies that were reportedly captured as fuel subsidies. Now, if you have an ex-graft agent boss coming out to make such strong claims, what will be the right thing to do in a follow-up to such claims?
Right. I cannot say he's saying what he does not know because, as the person at the helm of affair, he understood the challenges and how those things actually work. I can tell you that corruption in that sector cannot be achieved without the consent of some law enforcement agencies. Remember, those pipeline, those people are the people are the a lot of people had there their responsibility to secure it, and because of that they must know when things are going wrong. You could see Nigeria government actually give it to a private security company to actually secure. Is that not wrong? When you have law enforcement agency, you are now empowering an individual to actually secure the pipeline. And for Bawa to have said that there is some people that are to secure our pipeline and our all those process, I mean, even for subsidy they are to monitor it, but they are the one that are actually involved in those racketeering and those things. And when you talk about first subsidy removal, recall that it's a process on its own. And remember that those that are actually getting those, maybe let's look at equalization fund, those that are actually getting those things, that are getting the gap, that are bridging the gap through, are actually government agencies. So we cannot say they are not aware of all things that, all the rots that are going on in that sector.
Now, talking about all the rots, dating back to even 2013 when a police special unit did uncover an alleged scam in one of the multinationals, I won't want to mention the name. The challenge is that since then up until now, I don't know if you can correct me if I'm wrong, there have been no persons who have been prosecuted when we talk about the scam perpetrated in fuel subsidy.
Right. In Nigeria cases, you recall that we only rushed to the media to give talked about some issues, but we failed to actually follow them through. I can tell you that those are just media playing to the gallery. Once they know that it involves some of top government officials, politically exposed people, they will kill it at the beginning because if they go ahead, it's going to affect people at the end of fear. So, and that's why we said those people perpetrating those evil acts in our oil sector are doing it in cahoots with most government agencies, and that's why it becomes difficult to prosecute. Because by the time you go further to prosecute, they will say, okay, this person is aware, this person is involved, and by the time you see the names, you cannot go further again. So I think it is correct that those people committing those heinous crimes in oil sector have the consent of some top official of government.
We're talking about that. Let's also cast our minds back to the President Goodluck Jonathan administration, where one of my colleagues with a sister station, who was a media aide at that point, was not afraid to name names. He actually named names, including the House of Representatives Committee Chairman on Fuel Subsidy Removal at the time, saying that there was a bribery scandal involved. Now, it got to that point as high as that. And it almost seems as though the anti-graft agencies that willingly go after those involved in cyber crimes, pick and choose who they can arrest when it comes to these matters of multi-billion naira scams. Why is it that the anti-graft agencies, with such credible intelligence from a media aide to a president at that point, could not act on the intelligence?
Well, it's because they are also not free. They know those people, but they find it difficult to arrest them. Now, you remember that most of our House of Rep and senators have responsibility of oversight function. And the kind of oversight function, they seem to be a watchdog representing Nigerians to check if things are actually going in the right direction. That's a responsibility. So for anti-graft agency to actually come after them, that means they're coming after government. These things are done, it's like they are doing it in a syndicate manner, whereby once you arrest one, it will lead to the other person. So because of that, I'll stop such things from happening. That is why we say that every government agency must also clean themselves of the negative approach in terms of trying people. So anybody that is found wanting, if you cannot arrest them, that means they are aware and the government are aware, and maybe the anti-graft agency also see them as beyond arrest.
Now, I'm very sure Doctor will reconnect when his connection gets better. That was the opinion of the
They are like government functionaries who cannot be arrested.
Now, I haven't talked about the opinion of the ex-EFCC chairman, Abdul Rashid Bawa. Let's look at the opinion of former senior special assistant on media and publicity to President Muhammadu Buhari, Garba Shehu, who has made a case for his former boss, saying that he did not set any landmines, as it were, in terms of the implementation for the current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, noting that it is indeed common knowledge that budgetary allocations for fuel subsidy payments ended in June of 2023. And he is saying that we cannot blame the current hardship being experienced by its implementation on the former President Muhammadu Buhari. What do you make of Mr. Garba Shehu's comments?
Well, it is crystal clear that President Muhammadu Buhari actually did not remove fuel subsidy. Take it or leave it. It is not the one that removed it, and actually extended it to June. And I can tell you this. I wonder why people around President Bola Ahmed Tinubu are complaining, because if President Muhammadu Buhari had removed fuel subsidy before the election, they will not have seen the light of the day, and let alone win the election, because Nigeria cannot go through this hardship and as at early that period, and they will see they want Nigeria to vote for them. It's not possible. So for me, I think President Buhari have all this on his table and decide not to do it because he's more of a socialist. Because I see this government as much more of capitalist. So if you see President Muhammad Buhari, all those things coming on this table, I decided not to remove it, and you came in on board, you can actually bring in another supplementary budget that will shift first subsidy removal ahead. You can also decide not to. But the first day of President Muhammad Buhari, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will remove fuel subsidy, right from onset. So I think they should not even rob President Muhammad Buhari of the current quagmire in Nigeria. The president in charge of power should take responsibility.
Now, Doctor, you are an ardent economist. One of the accusations that Mr. Garba Shehu also dismissed was the role that the President Muhammad Buhari administration played in our currency devaluation. The question thrown at him was, could it have been managed better? Noting that we just came off the back of a pandemic in 2019-2020, and the government then, with the CBN governor Godwin Emefiele, proceeded to indiscriminately print new monies. We now have two different denominations for our highest denominations, from 500 to 1,000 notes. From the economic angle, is this correct?
Right. You see, countries across the world have processes of currency, and they have law guiding the currency. The only problem that we have with Emefiele and his boss, President Muhammad Buhari, was that, why is it that it is towards that period that they actually embarked on it? You have 7 years. You don't do it until you are about to go and started doing such things. So it's not bad as an economist for you to work on your currency, for you to, print new currency. In fact, there's a particular year, say after 5 years, we expect to actually do more of that. But the fact is that the situation they actually do it, the conditionality Nigeria or that Nigeria had then, because you recall that all of us have to we are buying currency at that period, and it's a bad one for Nigeria. So I think they did not manage it better, and they should take responsibility for that as well.
Now, moving on to another issue in the news, it's debates on where we are in terms of our approach to insecurity in the country. Now, the Sultan's GNI is also one of the most recent persons to lend their voice to the bloodbath across Nigeria with the resurgence of Boko Haram insurgency. Quite sadly, 19 persons reportedly lost their lives in Anambra. And when you talk about it, it almost seems as though there is no region of the country spared from some form of insecurity at the moment. Doctor, how do we approach this issue without paying lip
Well,
service to it?
the only way to approach is to have state police or community police, as it were, because if you recall that in the southeast they call them unknown gunmen, and it's unknown gunmen truly because you have somebody from Sokoto to be commissioner of police in Anambra, you have somebody from Calabar to be commissioner of police in Kaduna. It doesn't know the terrain. I put people that doesn't know the terrain there, but if you put people that know the terrain, speak their language, know everybody, such thing will reduce to at a small level, and you will have known that anything that happens, there is no incident that will happen that will not have the connection or the input of people that are in that community. So I think the best way to go is for that. But I must also call on this present government that under their watch, a lot of acts of terrorism have been carried out. We think we have seen the reduction of it that period before they came in. And at the beginning, when Lagwaja and others was in power, things were getting better, but now it's getting out of hand. If not Nigeria today, it will be Borno. If not Kaduna, it will be Anambra, it will be Enugu, it will be Benue, it will be Jos. So it's like every state is now have their own fair or their own share of this insecurity, and the essence of them coming to power is provide security for Nigerians, and this can also affect their election if care is not taken.
Now, the challenge is for Anambra, it's a build up to an election less than a month away. And we're having these issues of unknown gunmen killing as much as 19 persons. I know there are other hotspots in the country, but talking about the priority now, especially in a time when we continue to have conversations on litmus tests needed, particularly in by-elections, can there be a different strategy to secure Anambra?
Right. I think the governor also have more to do. He's a first-time governor, so he needs to do more, and he's going to contest for next governor, next election. So they have to rejig the security, because every election actually comes with such a thing in Nigeria. So he must rejig, and they must deploy enough security men into the state. But I have challenge with our DSS. DSS are supposed to be the intelligence on the ground, and we expect them to discover a lot of things before it actually happens. So I think our DSS needs to go into much more work, because it seems our Nigerian military are overwhelmed in terms of internal security, because it's like they have assignments in about 30 states out of 36 and FCT. So they need to do more. The police also must put on their intelligence cap to do more. If not, it will be worse, and it may actually have its own effect on the election, because the electorate, once there is security, people find it difficult to go out to go and vote, and that's what the kind of fear most of these people that commit heinous crime are expecting to happen. They don't want people coming out to actually vote.
Now, Doctor, as we look to wrap up, let's bring our closing focus to the oil industry. Our last conversation is around the federal government's approach in the wake of dormant oil fields, and in a bid to meet the OPEC quota. The federal government is yet again threatening to withdraw licenses in dormant oil fields. Let's begin this conversation from that angle. How does this shake up the playing field?
For a layman like us, we're wondering, how can you have an oil license and you're not processing? No, we believe that there's a lot of money there. So we find it difficult to see why you have a you work on it. So I think federal government should stop being petty, or stop being talking without action. I don't think this action will, this talk will work, this rhetorics. Why not do what you want to do? You've been warning, and we have not been meeting OPEC quota, and we need more money in the country. So I think government should just, if we're trying to seize one or two, or we don't license of one or two, they will change and they will be focused on maximizing the opportunity.
Now, the Minister for uh, State of Petroleum, Oil Resources, Senator Heineken Lukbobiri, who was speaking at the 2025 Oil and Gas Week, was the one talking when it was under the topic accelerating investments and innovations in the oil field. You rightly said that one thinks it is lucrative, so why do we still have dormant oil fields? But in understanding the what I call it, the politics within this space, one would also understand that the federal government also has a bidding process for some of these licenses. So it's not as though people collect the licenses for free, people bid for it. What are some of the encumbrances that also delays part of the exploration needed having obtained the licenses through such bids?
Right. Bidding for it and making it more lucrative. Because I think I've read somewhere where they said that the process of actually extracting that portion that they're giving to them are having issue. So I think bidding should, procurement process should also, we have to also go back there and see the bureaucratic bottleneck there, and make it much easier, and the licensing process should be much more easier. And government must have examined where they want to give to people before they actually put it into bid. So I think those processes are what we need to look at. If we have a good procurement process, I think that would have helped. It would have covered the assessment, the advertisement process, and the implementation process. I think they should look at that process very well.
Now, Doctor, whilst we talk about oil licenses, there is always the temptation to focus only on oil. We keep on just making the remark that Nigeria has over 200 cubic feet of gas reserves. There's the issue of gas flaring. Can't it be a conditionality to those who choose to explore, pick up these licenses, to actively show dedication in investing in Nigeria's untapped gas potential as a condition for the exploration?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying about the procurement. By the time you are doing your procurement processes, you must bring your conditionality, your technical requirements, that you must actually have a segment that will maximize the gas that is flaring. You must convert it to compressed natural gas. Those are part of the procurement process. If you don't capture the procurement process and you give people license, you cannot come back in the long run and say, why are you not doing this? They will show you document that is not capturing the document. And that's why the Nigerian government must get it right from what procurement process. Why is gas flaring? Why are we wasting it? They can convert it to compressed natural gas and other things that we can benefit. And that's why we said we have not actually maximized the oil potential. And as it is now, the world is actually moving from fossil fuel. So if we don't maximize it now, when are we going to actually enjoy it?
Now lastly, there's quite a technical term that was used that I didn't quite understand. I'd like to pick your thoughts on it. It was the mention that Nigeria's pipelines had 100% availability throughout the month of June. What does this mean technically?
Right. That means there is no production. So production was low. That simply means that it was not maximized as expected. And when you don't maximize it, it becomes a shortfall in terms of revenue for the federal government.
Well, Doctor, thank you for bringing us full circle on our review of headline stories as published on the front pages of the newspaper. We appreciate your objectivity.
Thank you for having me.
Well, do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.